Well, I'm gonna start without him.
Just kidding, I got it.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Community Economic Development Committee, so if that's where you want to be, you're in the right place. I always believe on starting on time and ending on time, but with this committee, I never know when ending actually is. We just end when we're done. Let's start with taking the roll.
Batra,
State your name.
Present.
Ortiz,
Present.
Kamei,
Here.
Vice Chair Jimenez, and Chair Foley.
Here.
You have a quorum.
I was going to take this opportunity to welcome Councilmember Jimenez and in his new role as vice chair, but he's not here, so too bad, so sad, but I hope he will show up. This is his first meeting as he was recently appointed last week at the city council meeting. With that, we do not have anything on the work plan to review, no consent, so let's start with the reports to the committee. The first is the Tenant Protection Ordinance Audit Report. Joe and team. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, Council. Joe Royce, City Auditor. I'm here with Allison Pauley, Hawad Hyder, and Maria Vai to present our audit on the Tenant Protection Ordinance. Housing should refine its fee calculation process and standardize procedures to improve program administration. Also in the boxes are Eric Sullivan and Emily Hislop from the Housing Department. In 2017, the City Council passed the Tenant Protection Ordinance, or TPO, to promote housing stability and fairness within the residential rental market. The TPO protects tenants in multiple housing units from unjust evictions by limiting terminations to 13 just causes. The Housing Department administers the TPO as part of its rent stabilization program. Property owners of covered units are charged a fee for housing's administration of the TPO, and San Jose has a two-tier fee system, a lower fee for TPO-only units and a higher fee for multiple housing units covered by both the TPO and the city's apartment rent ordinance. In recent years, housing has sought to increase the TPO-only fee to reflect the full cost of administering the program. And the objective of this audit was to review the assessment and use of TPO fees. The audit was conducted in response to a request by a member of the City Council. The first finding was that housing should develop a standard roster of TPO units and better document the fee calculation process. The current process to identify TPO-only units is complicated, labor-intensive, and has led to errors in the past. In its most recent count, housing estimated 48,000 TPO-only units in San Jose. However, this included about 6,400 hotel and motel rooms, which should have been exempt. The count of TPO-only units in past fee calculation has fluctuated because of the inclusion of properties that should not have been included and ongoing data cleaning. In addition, property exemptions from the TPO can be better clarified in communications with landlords, and better tracking of staff time would further improve the accuracy of the TPO-only fee calculation. Excuse me. To improve the fee calculation process, we had recommendations for housing to develop a standard roster or database of TPO-only properties, excluding hotels and motels, document and clarify the methodology for identifying TPO and exempt properties, and formalize procedures to track staff time across the different rent stabilization program areas. The second finding was that standard procedures and data collection would enhance the TPO's performance management. A key part of implementing the TPO is providing landlords and tenants with information to ensure compliance and to exercise their rights. Rent stabilization program staff documented about 1,500 TPO-related interactions with tenants and landlords across 600 properties in 2023. The Rent Stabilization Program's Procedures Manual does not currently contain specific guidance on managing TPO-related interactions and enforcement, however, and current data collection can be improved, and performance measures should be developed to better enable staff to assess program effectiveness. In this finding, we had recommendations for housing to update its Rent Stabilization Program Procedures Manual enhance its interaction log data collection, and develop performance measures to assess performance of TPO-related activities. Our last finding is that outreach, education, coordination efforts should be more proactive and data-driven. The rent stabilization program conducts outreach across the city to educate stakeholders about the TPO and related ordinances. Adopting a data-driven approach to identify and target high-need areas could improve the program's outreach. There also appears to be gaps in landlord awareness of their obligations in their TPO. And lastly, housing and the fire department can improve communication to tenants displaced after fires or other incidents. In this finding, we had recommendations for housing to identify high-need areas for outreach and address gaps in landlords' knowledge of the TPO, and collaborate with fire to update materials provided to tenants displaced by fires or other incidents. The report has 12 recommendations to refine the fee calculation process and improve program administration. I'd like to thank the Housing Department, the City Attorney's Office, Planning, Building, Code Enforcement, and the Fire Department for their time and insight during the audit process. I ask that you accept the report and cross-reference to the November 19th meeting of the full City Council. Happy to answer any questions, but first I'll turn it over to Eric Sullivan or Emily Hislop for the administration's response. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric Sullivan, Housing Director. We accept the findings of the audit and are moving forward with implementation and execution of the recommendations.
Great, thank you. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak? Anil?
We have one public speaker.
Yeah.
Last step is slippery. Good afternoon, committee members. Anil Babar with the California Apartment Association. I just want to once again thank the council, the full council, for agreeing to delay the adaptation of the recommended fees from the last fees and charges report in awaiting this report. I think this report really details some ways of streamlining and efficiencies that the department can use to really finesse the fees for next year and make sure we're charging the accurate amount. So again, I want to express my appreciation to the council, the housing department, and the auditor's department for the excellent report that was published. Thank you.
Back to committee.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just want to thank staff for their hard work on this audit. Really appreciate this data coming before us. A few questions. So on page 19 of the audit, the report notes, when rent stabilization program staff learn of TPO noncompliance, they mostly address it by informally reaching out to the landlords via phone and email. Based on insights from staff working on TPO noncompliance, what are the most common reasons for landlords' noncompliance with a TPO?
So a classic example is getting a notice of termination that states the owner move in, and it may be missing some of the required information. That's one we might catch before a tenant has come to us because we review the notices that aren't notices to pay. There's not as many. So typically, a staff member will call and inform the owner of what the requirements are without making any legal conclusions, but for it to be compliant, they would have to resubmit. And most of the time, they'll correct it and address it. If a tenant reaches out and hasn't gotten a proper notice and is fearful of trying to talk to their owner, we will call them, we ask for a copy of whatever they were given to verify, and then reach out to the owner. Again, most of the time it's resolved once they have the right information and know what they're supposed to do. And we confirm it because they have to submit it to the program, and if we have spoken with the tenant, we'll confirm with them.
So it's mostly because, I guess, the property owner isn't aware of these steps that they have to do?
Yeah.
Okay, which I know you talked about when it came to outreach later in the report. Do we happen to know what percentage of TPO units are currently in compliance?
That's a challenging question to address, because how would we know that they're
or
not
in compliant, I guess?
No, I mean, I don't know if we have any outstanding cases of owner not addressing something, but if we are not aware, we don't know.
I see. So it's based on if it's been reported or identified. Okay, no, that's good. In regards to recommendation number 8 from the audit, and it states, to better assess performance of tenant protection ordinance activities, the Housing Department should develop individual performance measures for the TPO ordinance that are aligned with the overall goals and measures highlighted in the Rent Stabilization Program Strategic Plan. I wanted to ask if staff could consider including an estimate or goal for the percentage of units that should be in compliance. Like, should we have some sort of threshold that we always want to have a majority of units in compliance?
If we can assess how we establish who's not in compliance, I think that's a good goal. We could, thinking about developing measures is when we get an inquiry about a non-compliant housing provider, that how we addressed it and how it was resolved is a potential measure, and that we would strive for, 95% to be resolved through our program rather than a tenant seeking legal help. But
Great.
I think we can only address the ones we're aware about, so it's hard to say overall compliance of all
I see. Yeah, no,
88,000 units.
And
No,
Councilmember, I will add, we can look to, data collection is obviously one of the issues identified within the audit. So as we look to improve data collection and look to get to a better kind of software management program, we'll be able to do more proactive enforcement, which is where your question's headed to. We can provide feedback on that.
Great, thank you. Really, really appreciate that. On page 26 of the audit, the map indicates that the majority of rent burden tenants are densely located in specific areas. As a District 5 council member, I speak to a lot of my residents. Many of them have raised that they are rent burdened, but we don't see that level being represented in the map. I just wanted to make sure if we're fully collecting the reality of, the living situations in our districts. Like, are we taking into consideration, people live in a house who have to rent out every single room, so it's not just one family who may be rent burdened, but they're having to combine their rents with each other, or a family member who has to work multiple jobs. Well, yeah, they're not rent burdened because they have to work 2 jobs, and so they're no longer rent burdened. So how are we looking at those factors?
So this is census tract data that I believe, maybe Allie, do you want to, it's your data.
Sure, I'm Allison Polly from the Office of the City Auditor. So we provided the maps just to give kind of an overview of the different demographics across San Jose and as examples of the kind of data that might help inform where to go. I think you have to look at things from multiple perspectives when deciding where to best target this outreach. And I think to your point, rent burden is maybe one facet to look at, but there could be other examples of different kinds of data that housing might want to look at to understand where to best use these outreach resources. So we provided a couple different maps to try and give that idea of like maybe there's different things to examine, and also to point out there are some places where maybe there could be more outreach.
So we're essentially working with the data that's available, but we acknowledge that that data isn't the complete picture.
Correct. So this is coming from the American Community Survey for the most part, and then we're mapping the different outreach events, and there's also multiple housing data. So there's not like one perfect data point to look at, to your point.
Okay, is there any, I don't know if the Housing Department has thought about this, but is there any way for us to look at some of these factors that aren't necessarily as apparent as the others, like, individuals having to work multiple jobs, or individuals having to, because I know there's no parking on the east side because multiple families are living in each home, because they're renting out their, units, in the backyard or something like that. So has housing thought about any of these issues that may arise with counting that?
Councilmember, we're happy to explore how best to collect that data, knowing that a lot of it becomes very subjective because there aren't consistent data sources for that, but we can explore to see what options are there to get to a more comprehensive picture for that and include that in our anti-displacement report that comes up next year, I think February, March.
Great, I asked that because I just want to make sure all of our population who need these services gain access to it, and I would hate for us to just follow one set of data and disperse resources that way when I know a lot of residents in my district are impacted by the rent. I'm also concerned about tenants who may not be fully aware of their rights under the TPO. Are there plans to collaborate with community organizations to help educate tenants about their rights, or maybe how to navigate the eviction process?
Yes, and that's part of the rent stabilization strategic plan, where we detail out what is the current work that we're doing around eviction diversion, as well as catching more upstream work to ensure that we can get to more mediated settlements prior to even the filing of evictions.
Okay. Is there anything being offered in, in multiple languages, Vietnamese, Spanish? How does that look like?
Yeah, there's multiple language being offered for all of our programs now. We're going to start standardizing under our revised limited English proficiency policy to ensure that we're able to meet all of our community needs in their languages.
Okay. Thank you. Oh.
I just want to add that we recently entered into 2 contracts that is outside, it's not funding from this program, rather CDBG and other funding. One is with a nonprofit that does neutral tenant landlord counseling and dispute resolution, and we've just started getting going on that, and that is...
I think it's a missing senior. I think
okay.
no.
Sorry about that. And we are collaborating on outreach. This is Project Sentinel is a 50-year organization that has been engaged in this type of work in Santa Clara County for decades, and they are able to assist in more ways that our staff can, and really helping getting to the heart of tenant-landlord relations and issues. They're also collecting data that we will also get we will be able to use that towards our performance measures. They have connections with community benefit organizations. The other contract is with an organization called Legal Link that does specific legal type training or issue training to community benefit organizations on how they can issue spot and connect people that they're interacting with the correct resources. And they do these trainings in different languages, and it's a train the trainers approach. So we've also got those things going on in addition to our own targeted work.
Great, appreciate that. And then finally, I saw that during the audit on page 30, there was a survey of landlords, which I guess the information that was founded was that there wasn't a large population of the landlord community that were aware, at least of the surveyed landlord community, that were aware of the different aspects of TPO. Is there going to be ever a similar survey for tenants to gauge understanding of it? And that's my last question.
So I'll let Emily take on we'll talk the first part. So we did put together a survey for tenants. The challenge is getting it into the community and getting reasonable response. So we tried to piggyback on some of the outreach events and have the survey available to people who would come to those events. Unfortunately, we just didn't get much response. And so I think of the longer term goal, I don't want to speak for Emily, but I remember during the conversations, potentially something is, okay, I see nodding, so that I'm not making that up. that is something that from a longer term standpoint they'll want to do. But we didn't have a specific recommendation because it was similar to some of the other tenant engagement. We didn't have a recommendation because we were already seeing some actions in some of those areas.
So I believe we've had surveys in the past, and we think collectively about how we might be able to conduct those types of surveys with tenants. But it's challenging because a lot of times the only people who are going to respond are they're really happy about something or not very happy about something. So we're thinking about ways in revising how we deal with our interactions is to to get some feedback while we're on the call of do you have a better understanding of your rights and where to go, but how we would measure that, that's kind of what we're trying to work out. But it is a challenge to get that kind of feedback from tenants.
Anything else? Great, thank you. Vice Mayor Kamei.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to thank the audit team, the auditor and the audit team on a great job done. I also want to thank the Director of Housing as well as his team for your thoughtful responses. It's really great that so many opportunities were identified. They're going to be moving forward, and it's really going to serve our community much better. I'm a big believer of the fact that data informs decision making, and the better data, the more we can make decisions that are thoughtful and that are at least trying to be more accurate. So I wanted to make a comment of the software management program that you might be considering. So in my experience, I certainly have used Salesforce. I don't know to what extent the Department of Housing uses Salesforce, but it is an extremely powerful tool. It is painful in the beginning. let me be very, very clear. It is very painful in the beginning because you have to input, somebody has to input all of that data. And if you don't have a set protocol for the data tracking, that you sort of have uniformity, and I can give you an example of, for example, naming conventions, right? If you start with a numeral as opposed to an alpha, you know, then it's different when you're sorting and all of that. But what I have found is that if you can set this up correctly, it's amazing how you can extract all kinds of data to be able to help us in the future. So my suggestion, and I know that it's going to be a tight budget. We know that it's going to happen. But even if you had, you know, some way of setting it up, and I do know that Salesforce is there may be others out there, but that's just an example. There may be others out there that provide the kinds of support to help you set it all up and get it done so that in the long run, you're actually pulling information, whether it's from landlords, whether it's from tenants, whether it's from other sources, and you can sort it in a multiple way. But you do have to have those protocols, or else you think you're doing great stuff, and then all of a sudden you can't sort it, right? So it is extremely painful, but the pain will get you a lot of gain. And maybe, you know, in this budget cycle, there could be temporary 1 year or whatever, you know, sort of funding. It is worth the investment. It really, really is. I know, you know, I don't like to spend money, but, but I will say, it is. It is valuable because at the end of the day, if you don't have the correct data and you have junk in, junk out, you know, we're spending a lot more money in the long run. So I just put that plug out there. And since, you know, in the beginning of the year, we're going to start talking about budget, it may be sort of a short-term thing where we invest in order to get to a better place later on. And I'm big on wanting to do something like that because I think that it's going to help all of us. And we need to do it, you know, but I also think that it's going to cost something. And those who are inputting the data, those are the most important people because we'll be able to manipulate the data in the way that it gives us information to make decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I will share that the department, we currently have 2 FTEs that are dedicated to programming Salesforce. The challenges that we have with Salesforce is less to do about customizations to it. It's just that the program isn't really well designed for this type of initiative where we're effectively property managing, collecting fees, updating that information, accounting for the changes in ownership. It isn't well suited for it. And that was some of the challenges that in going through the audit we found. We have 2 folks who work full-time who do programming on the back end who are just housing department employees, and we still can't quite get it there. So that's some of the challenges that it has been on the data collection side that's prohibiting us from being able to take more proactive actions around the data collection and analysis and more engagements.
I will say 2 is not enough. 2 is not enough. And you know, the other thing that I will say is that as you're thinking on how you set this up, if you say only those 2 people are responsible for data input, right? Maybe they could be the sort of the general one. It's very hard to, the volume of information is so much that you never get to where you need to be. You're always behind, right?
Right.
And so I just think that if you were to need, you know, a group of those doing the inputting, especially in the beginning, right? It's certainly worth the time and the effort to do it correctly and then be able to build on it.
Yes, and the 2 are programmers, they're not inputters, so they're doing customizations to it to try to modify it for all the different programs that we use Salesforce for within the department. So that's just been some of the challenges to it.
Anything else, Vice Mayor?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Batra.
Turn my mic off, so it would be helpful if I turn the mic. Okay, thank you very much for that detailed report with 12 recommendations. Even though I used to do what Vice Mayor just described for a living, I'm going to stay away from prescribing how to run that system. But I am going to say that the comments in the report are mostly relevant to having a higher quality data, okay? And having more and automated data, because even though you only have to deal with 48,000 properties, anything you do manually on those is probably not going to be of the quality which you would need and about the time needed to do it. So my emphasis is going to be look at whatever the best integrated tool you can work with, whether that happens to be the CRM or anything else, and whatever can be done with the people you got there, how you get there, how many people you need. But you do need to look at some integrated way of getting the data for the higher quality than that, than what it is today. My observation was that you had 1,500 interactions during this time for the tenant protection ordinance. Even though we have to educate a lot of landlords, tenants about this thing, but our final goal is that those 1,500 type of interactions either don't occur or they are satisfactorily resolved, because that means that the people got what the value we really wanted it to be from this work. Okay, so please comment on what was the findings from that 1,500 interactions. Did those, what percentage of them were just cause evictions, or did they really had to be taken different actions, misunderstanding by the landlords or by the tenants? Because that's what we really want to impact with all the work we are doing.
I don't think in the audit, Councilmember, we specify exactly the outcome of each of those 1,500 interactions. We did look at kind of the line items of like what those interactions were about generally. That's how we decided they were related to the tenant protection ordinance. But they spanned a broad range of like types of inquiries. Sometimes they wanted to be connected to legal assistance. Sometimes the housing staff would connect them to other resources. Sometimes it was just a question, an inquiry. Or they wanted to know, like Emily spoke to before, like, has my landlord submitted a notice already? So those are the types of interactions that we're talking about. I also want to be clear that the 1,500 is just for the rent stabilization program staff. There might be questions about evictions going to like the eviction help center that were handled separately.
Okay.
If I could add really quick, so I think
Sure.
Going back to the specific recommendation, and this is one of the reasons why we made the recommendation, just to let me read it. So, should refine their interaction data collection to label which ordinance they're being inquired about, clarify when staff are enforcing ordinances which get at some of the outcome pieces, and eliminate unnecessary data fields. So it gets to this question of what is happening with these calls, what ordinance are they talking about, and what happens with that. All it gets kind of wrapped up in that recommendation, because I think it's, and then with obviously the performance measures as well, all of this is together. Right now, looking at the Salesforce data, as Ali described, we can understand maybe what had happened, but following it through to the final result isn't something that can be done with the way it was currently set up at the time of the audit. And I think I jumped Emily in queue there.
I was just looking to who would address that question, but to Kame's point, we do use Salesforce, and that was set up a long time ago, and we're working with one of the programmers to have more specific data fields so we can track, what kind of question it is and what the staff did. But staff is counseled to detail what the problem was, what we did, and what happened at the end of the call. That just, what was clear from the audit, was not always consistent or readily extractable from our current way of tracking.
Okay. So I think that's where the emphasis need to go, because eventually our goal being that we want these tenants to be treated with proper ordinance and the landlords not unnecessarily be complained against, and both of them can live with the rules which we prescribed. But and I think there was a question earlier on about how many landlords are in compliance. Since this is a occurrence at the end of a lease or when the eviction happens, that's a real snapshot item. It's not a continuous thing where a landlord is either in compliance or non-compliance. So I think that kind of a data would be almost impossible to get. Joe, can you comment on that? Can you really have that situation at all?
Well, as Emily said, trying to understand if a landlord is compliant absent some complaint or some other means of being alerted to that, it can be pretty challenging to understand that question, and that gets beyond just housing. That's in any like a code type program, and so. Yeah, it'll be a challenge. I think Emily kind of described some of the challenges earlier, but I think trying to understand that moving forward, trying to figure out what they can measure in terms of compliance or non-compliance, might be easier to measure on the non-compliant side, because you are getting some complaints, you are getting the notices coming about the eviction notices. So I think going back to the recommendation, we have what are the performance metrics moving forward to gauge how the program's working, and then we'll just see what they're able to gather and how they're able to measure that, and how they're able to act on whatever they're learning, whether with the new data in Salesforce, the new fields in Salesforce, the new direction to staff to gather this information. That'll be helpful in the future, and from an audit standpoint, I'm at a wait and see point. I don't know if Eric or Emily wants to talk about that.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Now, I think the fact that we will look at our interactions and find out what those interactions were, how did we satisfactorily resolve, that would give us the effectiveness value of our work, which will be great. Chair, I'd like to move the motion to accept the report with cross-reference of this item to November 19th, 2024 City Council. With one addition I'd like to add in
Wait a
there.
minute, I need to get a second first. Is there a second? Okay.
Okay. I'd like to make
Go ahead.
one addition in there, that with this data quality recommendations, explore and report the automation which you would like to pursue or would pursue for getting the data integrity or the data value. Okay. Would that be acceptable? Sure.
Is this to come back to CED, or it seems to me this should be a budget process that comes to the budget process in January, February, or February, March?
They may or may not need the budget. The first thing would be is in the CED too, because they may be able to work with their current CRM system or whatever the current methods are. And so it may or may not have budget implications depending upon what they find or how they approach it. Initial thing would be is to look at it with the help of their IT people. What's the direction they need to go? And that may have the budget directions or not.
I think they already have that direction.
I think, Eric, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so we have direction to pursue other software programs that would be better, more suited, more customizable to, again, Vice Mayor, I hear your concerns. It's just we have Salesforce doing so many variety of different things, from underwriting loans to trying to do this. The customizations have made it very difficult to administer the program. So this would be more of a budget question about whether or not we can fund an alternative software program that's more conducive and responsive to both our customer needs as well as our data analytics internally.
Eric, is it fair to say that you're already analyzing the data that you need?
Yes.
So I don't think you need that, since they're already doing that.
My comment was about the automation of that one. It's not only the data elements which they need, but Eric, are you looking at the automation?
Yes, as part of exploring different software programs, we're looking at ways in which that software program can be more interactive to automate things such as each year when landlords come on, they have to register for the program. How do we better sync that to emails and more modern tools that are available currently so that we can get that data in a much more automated way rather than having to do continuous sort of updates in emails, looking much more ways to streamline.
Okay, so you intend to update the CED about how you're going about getting the data and whether you're getting manually or clean it up or automate, whatever that is the case. Is that right?
So we can update CED on that, but again, I think that's maybe more of a budget issue.
An update,
Yeah.
it's actually not part of our work plan, but
Okay.
Rosalind, do you want to speak to that? Once it
Sure.
goes to council, it's in council, so.
Right. I think that the Housing Department can provide this update as part of the CED CSA performance measures. I know that we are preparing to come to CED early next year, and I think we're on a regular annual cadence with that report, so I think that's something that can be included with that report.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Thank you. I just want to point out that this audit came as a result of an increase in fees in a budget cycle a couple of years ago. And we were concerned about what seemed like the arbitrary increase in fees and asked that the fees be frozen at that time or held at that particular time. And I remember Councilmember Davis in particular requested that an audit be done. So this is the result of the audit. It's good to see this come forward because clearly some of our data is inaccurate. If we're collecting, including hotels and motels in these numbers, that's skews the numbers quite a bit. And while they may be paying the fee, they may not be required to pay the fee. So in the future, we can't depend on that source of revenue. So I'm glad to see this report and see it moving forward to City Council. And as always, Joe, you always bring in a very detailed, thoughtful report, and with the approval or the acceptance of the Housing Department, clearly they agree with you and on all of your points. So it's all about having good data and acting on the data that we have to collect the information accurately from all sides. With that, let's vote. Thank you, that motion carries. Moving on to the next report. Thank you for being here. Moving on to the next report, which is the 2026 Major Event Status Report. We have Rosalind, Nancy, and Carrie, and special guest John Poach.
Thank you, Chair Foley. Rosalind Huey, Deputy City Manager, and as the team is coming down, we can advance to the next slide. I just wanted to provide just a very quick overview of the 3 major sports events that we are preparing for 2026. We've heard a lot about them, and we're very excited about our work plan, and particularly working with our external partners to prepare. So, of course, first we have Super Bowl 60 in February, followed by the NCAA Men's Basketball Regional Games in March. And then what we're we're excited about all these events, but we're very excited about FIFA World Cup 26. As you can see on these dates, these events, these matches are going to be occurring over a 6-week period. So we have the opportunity to attract many new visitors and travelers to the city of San Jose, expose them to our wonderful city, share with them all that we have to offer, and honestly, attract them back. even after 2026. That's our goal. In addition, we think that we have an enormous opportunity to just celebrate with our current residents, to celebrate our community and our diverse culture. Next slide. Obviously, it takes a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of coordination and collaboration over the next several months. You can see on this slide all of the city departments that are already involved. It's being led up by our Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs. But we know that we can't do this work alone, and so we've got some great external partners. I do want to emphasize that city staff, we're going to work on the things that we do best. So one of the things that we're going to be focusing on is all of the policy work that we have to get going, and then looking to our partners to do what they do best. So we're very excited to be joined by John Poach today of the Sports Authority. He's already been a tremendous coordinator and collaborator. We've actually been meeting probably 3 months now, every Thursday morning with he and the Earthquakes. And who am I forgetting? The Sharks, of course, our other great partner. So with that, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Nancy Klein.
Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. Great to be with you. I just want to highlight first what Rosalind said. We will focus through the city on bringing together great activations that focus on our diversity, rich culture, arts, sports, food, and we will do that well. And then really stretch ourselves to allow partners, support partners, to own and be engaged in part of these events so that we can add to our capacity and also share the pride that comes with that. Here on this slide just focuses a little bit on Super Bowl week, that we have an estimated economic impact of $100 million to $160 million, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it as the Super Bowl teams will stay in San Jose and in Santa Clara. One team will be in San Jose in the downtown Marriott and practice at SJSU. The other team will stay in Santa Clara and practice at Stanford University. There's also the hope that we will attract Media Day, which will be the very first day of the week. And the NHL, not Hockey League, thinking about the Sharks, NFL is working with the arena, Jonathan Becker, to bring Media Day here. It would be a wonderful experience. Low-cost tickets, so many members of the public can stay. So he's optimistic that will work, and we're hoping we will know soon. The next one. Part of this is being able to shine in our facilities and outside. We're excited to show off what we've got and to do some new things with different locations and learn from activities that we have been practicing on. For example, different activations that happened over the summer that can be extremely exciting and stretch us. It is very valuable, as Rosalind was mentioning, to have Jonathan Becker with the Sharks and Jed Matei with Earthquakes, as well as John Poach from the Sports Authority, in really hunkering down and working together. In particular, Jonathan Becker and Jed Matei are on the host committee. So as a result, they're taking that knowledge of what is happening in the Bay Area and also giving us insight into what we should be doing in San Jose. Men's regional basketball is a very, very exciting event. It's held at SAP. San Jose State is the local host. There is a very positive economic impact, and already the team and staff hotels have already been booked. Over 1,000 hotel room nights booked and more to come. And a great opportunity, again, to show off with San Jose State and their new relatively new football facilities. And also want to mention, which John Poach might add to a little bit later, Hoop It Up, which will be a great number of half-court basketball courts in the downtown, where there'll be different 3-on-3 contests, which will be a whole lot of fun. For FIFA, as Rosalind said, this is 6 weeks of nonstop vivaciousness. We learned over the summer with the games that were here, if anybody had a chance for the watch party on San Pedro with the Colombian folks who were here to visit the game, it was amazing. So we learned a lot about what to do, thanks to, again, Jed Matei from the Earthquakes and John Poach, and very much want to recognize Office of Cultural Affairs, and in particular on the front, we noted some team members, but we didn't include Melina, who is here and you know well, Iglesias, from our office, who really makes so many of these events happen. 16 cities during FIFA will host matches. 11 are in the U.S. We'll find out who the teams will be in December of 25, though that will give us the opportunity to hone the kind of outreach and the opportunities for bringing the kind of events and participants to specific games, like we did with the Colombian delegates. So many hotel rooms are already identified. Signia is the FIFA headquarters. The downtown San Jose Marriott and Hilton are team hotels, so we'll have 2. And the Valencia will be the VIP hotel. So we will have hoppin' parties downtown and at that other little place for Federal Realty up the road. Lastly, for me, I did want to mention that there are so many other events. We'll have these downtown events and San Pedro Square and citywide venues. We will look, as we did over the summer, we had a super event at Mexican Heritage Plaza, as well as D8 with YMCA, and look for other opportunities to bring the celebration out to the neighborhoods, because so many folks will want to experience that and create even deeper community in their neighborhoods. But John Poach has been doing so many more things. There are many more 2025 events secured. The CONCACAF Gold Cup will be here in June and July. That's a big, big deal. There'll be an Ironman rock and roll. There'll be San Jose Judo Open and another San Jose Sports Hall of Fame. In 2026, there'll be Reach Scholarship programs. There'll be more Hoop It Up, USA Water Polo Junior Olympics, another Ironman, and another Judo Open. So a lot of sports will be going on, and perhaps John might also get a chance to tell you on some other events he's trying to attract. But with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Carrie.
Great, thank you. Carrie Adams-Hapner, Assistant Director of the Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. So I'm going to talk us through our city staff work plan, comprised of 7 strategic initiatives. So I want to just underscore what Rosalind said. This is a work plan that's really around what the city can do to help set up these events for their success for both our partners and the community. So we're going to begin with resources. So as part of the annual report, as you know, Council approved a new position in the city manager's office. This is a short-term position which will be critical to be playing a coordinating role across city departments and also with participating partners. Furthermore, we anticipate that this position will also help to influence and coordinate with state and federal agencies with our IGR department around advocacy for additional funding in the form of earmarks for both public safety and infrastructure, as well as other needs. And finally, we see this also as an opportunity to pursue fundraising and sponsorship goals, and using partners like Team San Jose and the Sports Authority as fiscal agents, fiscal sponsors, so that when we do receive grant funding, that we can be very nimble and spend that funding very quickly. So we're very excited about that, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank the council for approving that very important position. The next area where I'm going to spend a little bit more time is in the area of policy. We have several policy elements underway, and I'm going to walk through them one by one, but I just want to start by saying we are going to be building on past experiences. We have some existing policies already in place. Maybe they've sunsetted, but we're going to go back to those policies and see what we can do to amend them for 2026 and beyond, because we are going to continue to pursue major sporting events in San Jose. And so we are building on our past experience, and we're working across city departments. But I also want to just add for context, where possible, we will be seeking to consolidate policy so that we can, very much be efficient. So that's one of the lenses that we have when we're reviewing this different work. So let me begin with the super graphics ordinance. We had a super graphics ordinance when we had Super Bowl 50, but it did sunset. So we're going to be working on different elements, including eliminating the existing sunset clause, increasing the display duration, and potentially doing things like altering the height allowances and other types of non-technical or formatting changes. And then we have the 2015 Special Event Zone Policy that we want to amend as well. So building upon that policy, we are seeking to designate areas in our downtown within the Special Event Zone that will provide a temporary ordinance that will modify unique operational needs of qualifying destination events. So that might be something like a venue use, street closures, temporary structures, signage, pedaling, and the use of unmanned airports, aka drone, did I say airports? Aircrafts, aka drones, and other needs. So it's an opportunity for us to put a temporary modification to our existing ordinances for the length of that time. So that's a really great opportunity for us, and we'll be looking at the special event zone as a potential way to consolidate some of the key items. The next policy item that we're working on, and it's been brought to our attention over the past year that this is something that we aim to do beyond these 2026, and that's the amendment of our private property special event policy. And that will increase the number of times a private property, such as a parking lot, can be used for outdoor special events through an Office of Cultural Affairs temporary special event permit without requiring a planning special use permit. So this will do a couple of things. It will reduce the permit costs and time involved while facilitating the increased vibrancy. So we're actively working on this policy now. The next one is really interesting because we just had the approvals of a state bill 969, and it's a city, which enables cities to create entertainment zones. So under this new state legislation, local jurisdictions can create entertainment zones that allow for the sale of to-go containers of alcohol that can be consumed outdoors within a specific geographic area. And that it can be customized according to local municipal needs. And our own operating requirements as well. So the goal of this legislation is to help activate streets with entertainment and community-driven events to really accelerate our economy and our economic recovery since the pandemic. So currently, we are researching frameworks and obtaining advice from other cities as potential models. And then finally, an important policy area that we're working on is around static and digital wayfinding. So our interdepartmental team is currently acting on ways to approach static and digital wayfinding. And to the extent possible, I just want to underscore, if we can consolidate any of this policy, we will, just for efficiencies. The next kind of leg of our stool, if you will, is around cultural programming and an event calendar. So both Rosalind and Nancy spoke about the different types of programming that we want to make available for our visitors and our regional visitors. And so to begin, we're going to lead with a campaign called Fly, Stay, and Play in San Jose. And we're going to be working with Visit San Jose, the airport, and the Downtown Association. And really the goal is to foster and promote citywide programming content to be inclusive of our multicultural community that's intergenerational, family-friendly, and authentically San Jose. And so we're going to be engaging our arts nonprofits, our providers of different types of programs, and we're also, as Nancy mentioned, we want to curate some of the content during FIFA to be reflective of the types of teams that are going to be competing. So we're really excited about that. Also, we'll be working with, our city-owned facility operators as well to make sure that there's a breadth of different types of things that are available to our visitors. And we're also going to be developing a list of offerings, and key to all of this will be that we're really driving San Jose as a destination city, both regionally and for folks that are going to fly into SJC and stay in our hotels. I also just want to make a quick caveat in that there will be Bay Area Host Committee, NFL, and FIFA requirements related to official events, but we also want to be very inclusive of community events. So it's a yes and approach that we're going to be fostering and promoting. And we're also, as part of this, going to be pursuing unique and very interesting, engaging, and participatory types of events, like more city dance events and public art activations that will engage the community. So we have a really excited, creative team working on this. The next leg of the stool is around our best face forward. We want, when people come to San Jose and our downtown, to be impressed at its beauty, its cleanliness, and its public realm and overall infrastructure. Furthermore, as I mentioned already, wayfinding will be critical to that. And under this section related to marketing and communications, we'll be working with Team San Jose, AKA Visit San Jose, and the airport on that Fly, Stay, and Play in San Jose campaign. And also we'll be developing a virtual landing page to promote the different types of things that are happening in San Jose so that when visitors come, they know exactly where to go and what to do. And then another element that we'll be doing to promote this work citywide is a citywide street banner campaign that will have the ability to promote that landing page, and that it will be designed by a local artist. I'm going to reference the great Eastside San Jose banners we did maybe about a year and a half ago, and they were designed by Omar Rodriguez from Cultura Marketing, and they promote different elements and parts of San Jose. So we're looking to kind of use a model similar to that that would promote all the different things that are happening in 2026. And also engaging our local community on the success. Emergency operations, our Office of Emergency Management. Here today is Ray. hi Ray, they'll be very critical partners in this entire year. And they have already begun training for our staff. It's already underway. We've already started interagency coordination. We'll be conducting EOC planning and activation, and also preparation with San Jose Police Department is also underway, and we're also looking to secure funding for security. And finally, communications and status reports and updates. Specifically, we want to cross-reference this report to the full council for November 19th. We also want to provide semi-annual updates to the committee. So our next update would be in the spring of 2025. And then furthermore, we would love to provide different pieces of information that you can share with your residents, your constituents through your newsletters. And then as needed, we'll be developing info memos for you to just get an update or on different facets of this work plan. And then as needed, we can ask the city manager to provide updates or reports under her item 3.1 at council meetings. So with that, I now want to turn it over to John Poach to share any updates. And John will also be available for any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Members of the council, thank you for the opportunity. We're excited. We've been working on this since 2017. And the key is a lot of people feel we're behind in planning, but we're not. What we have to do is wait for our governing body partners, FIFA, to share with the Bay Area Host Committee what their activations will be, and then the NFL to share with the Bay Area Host Committee what the Super Bowl activations will be. But we're not going to wait. We can still plan what we would like to see as a celebration for our community, because what we have that no other city has is a diversity like no place else in the country. That's what Silicon Valley and San Jose defines Silicon Valley. So I'm excited to work with the Office of Cultural Affairs, Office of Economic Development on our thoughts and insights from best practices of what we have done in the past and to see what else we can create moving forward.
With that, we thank you for your patience. It was a little long, and look forward to having any questions that you might ask us.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I'm really excited to see what 2026 has to offer. There's a lot of opportunities here. John, I understand you had a tour with the NFL today. Do you have any information or insight that you can share with us?
Well, today was about a site visit for their vice president who oversees all special game operations. And so we're showing him the footprint downtown of San Jose so that if we have a team at the Marriott, they can practice at San Jose State. NFL will stay at the Signia, and then the rest of the hotels that they can utilize. One team would be in San Jose, one team would be at Stanford. And so the hotels have to be within 20 minutes of the stadium, and the practice venues have to be 20 minutes within the stadium. So today was just really showing the NFL a final walkthrough of what we will do to host for one of the participating teams of the Super Bowl.
Were they receptive?
They were beyond amazed at what San Jose State has done with the new football building. To have a 60,000 square foot facility that mirrors the best that there is in college athletics. I can speak to that with Charlie Foss and myself, who started this project and spent 6 years on that project. So we're excited that the NFL sees just an incredible jewel that we have. That one of the reasons why they want to be here is because of that facility.
That's great. Well, I'm tired when I see the 49ers play that we always see the Golden Gate Bridge shot and the picture of the bay, and then they refer to Santa Clara as on the bay and part of San Francisco, thinking, okay, if you really stretch it, but what about San Jose? So, John, I know you're out there. You're our #1 cheerleader out there trying to bring sports and activities to San Jose, and you do a fabulous job. So I look forward to more reports from you. I do have some questions that I'll get to later, but first we should go to the members of the public to see if we have anybody.
No public comment.
Okay, then I will turn to my colleagues, and I think I saw Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate all the work being done by OED staff, really, and all of our partners to plan for these amazing and exciting events that we hope to bring a lot of people here to our great city. And I'm optimistic about the economic activity that could be generated and hopefully recover our local economy here in the city of San Jose. I do have a question. So on page 2 of the memo, it says that the estimated economic impact of Super Bowl 60 is $100 million to $160 million. I wanted to ask, how do those numbers compare with the previous Super Bowl that was here and that we did activities in downtown San Jose for?
Well, the Bay Area Host Committee put together that economic impact analysis. They used a firm out of San Francisco to do those numbers. What we can say is that the most critical thing for us for the Super Bowl is to have Media Day, opening night. The reason why, it gives you the first event of the week of the Super Bowl and the last event, which is a game. Right? We won't have the Fan Fest because it needs a 1 million square foot convention center. We don't have that. So that will be San Francisco. So credit to the SAP Center, because our emphasis is have to win Media Day. Now for the Media Day, what I did for you is prepared an economic impact assumption. I used Dan Rasher, the same man who did the economic impact report for the Bay Area Host Committee, and compare apples to apples. Our Media Day will be similar to Super Bowl 57, which was in Phoenix, because they did it in their arena. Las Vegas did it in their football stadium. New Orleans this year will do it in a football stadium, so it's not really looking at apples to apples, right? So we looked at the impact they had in Phoenix, similar size arena, similar footprint, and that's how they came with a minimum of a $760,000 economic impact, which is extremely conservative. Now, the past Super Bowls, the Las Vegas is unlike one we're ever going to see. Normally, a Super Bowl brings in up to 50 to 75,000 tourists to your area. Las Vegas saw 250,000. And that's an anomaly because traditionally people go to Las Vegas to watch the Super Bowl, to be in the casinos. So that's really an anomaly. I expect the economic impact for this one to be in the high 250 million range, but that's for the entire Bay Area, not San Jose. Because remember, the Fan Fest would be in San Francisco. The game would be in Santa Clara. So when you add those 3 areas together, that's how you had such a high number.
Thank you, John. And Councilmember, I did hear you ask about the comparison to the last Super Bowl. So we'll go and try to lift that.
That'd be great.
And then be able to respond.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Kamei.
Well, this is so very exciting, and as we get closer, there's going to be more momentum and more excitement. So, thank you so much for bringing this to us today and giving us an updated status report. It is very exciting, and I look forward to all of the wonderful activities that are going to happen. One of the things that has come up previously in terms of preparing for this is, just keeping us up to date as to how, I don't know if you do it more frequently when we get closer or, how you approach something like this. These are huge, huge events, and of course, they take a lot. And I like what you said, John, about we're not waiting, we're actually proactively moving forward to get things done, because I think that leads to success, in my opinion, and so I'm glad to hear that. But in terms of as you get closer, because here we are, almost November, right? And it's, to me, it's around the corner. So I know that a lot of work needs to be done. I know we've talked about the different wayfinding and all that kind of stuff. I'm just wondering how you now super accelerate to get to where you want to be? Or do you feel like you're already in that place? where you are, where you want to be.
We're rolling and we'll need to pick up speed. So we're not disagreeing with you. I think the theme that you're also hearing from all of us is we really want to empower our partners to do great work, pushing ourselves perhaps in ways we haven't done, so that those folks can do what they do and take a little bit of load off us, but give them the joy and coordination, I believe it is a joy, and then leave us to focus on strategic events, working with PD, working with Ray's shop, the things that the city must do as our component.
Great, great, great. No, I really think it's the right thing to do, and being prepared certainly is going to be a benefit to us. So with that, I'd like to move acceptance of the status report and cross-reference the item to the City Council regular meeting on November 19th.
Second.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Batra.
Thank you very much for organizing your planning activities around those 7 pillars. And I think that shows that you have done this before and you know where we need to go. A couple of comments. Number one, this opportunity to do some economic development, the things which we need to do, we should do that there is a lasting impact, not only the one-time capture of the thing. So we should be able to build it, and I think you implied that in your statement, that we're going to make it as San Jose as a destination city. So that means that the changes which we're going to make, some of them are going to be the lasting things which will continue to attract the people in future. So that's a very important item for us, and we want to be able to capture that and use this as an accelerator to get to that point where it's a destination city. The number two I was going to say is that when we are paying attention to getting the people from travelers, because we want them to come here and make the TOT dollars, we also want to consider making it very convenient for local people and the people in the couple of 100 miles of this area to be able to participate and enjoy all these unique opportunities which happen to be coming all at the same time in 1 year, and that doesn't happen in too many places too often. So we need to keep that in mind, that they get to enjoy those things as well. The last item I'm going to talk about is the concern for the safety and security. You know that we have the pretty limited police force, and these items, with all what goes on behind the scenes, the police and fire are going to have a big impact. And this happens to be, the third event happens to be during the time when we have 4th of July, when we have issues with our illegal fireworks. We also have a demand on our police force to be supporting our events. And I know that I do take a number of them for our Almaden Lake facility. I want to make sure that enough planning is done that those people are going to be available to be able to support the local activities which happen year after year while we do address these ones. So I'm sure since you have it on your list, you're paying attention to it, and I just want to reiterate that please keep that extra demands which will be needed for the local work, and we somehow plan for this thing. And whatever the council needs to do, we'll certainly be out there to support you, because we want all of these things to happen with complete safety and people to have an experience of that kind. Okay?
Excellent points. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Jimenez.
Yeah, thank you everyone for the work. John, what I was wondering is, during the next Super Bowl, I'm wondering what you can do to make sure the Raiders are able to stay in San Jose.
49ers, give me a break.
Because I want them to be close by. But with that, what I was curious about is, what if in fact the 49ers make the Super Bowl? Obviously, you listed out, one team in San Jose, the other in Stanford. Does that still play out the same way, considering they have their facilities down the street? How does that?
Yes, the teams are mandated to be at the NFL sites. There can't be any favoritism whatsoever. Yeah.
Okay.
And they must use the NFL blocks, can't stay in their own homes. So that's mandated by the NFL.
It's quite the business model. Okay, all right, makes sense. The other question I had is, given the last time around, and then now we're obviously have a second go at it, if you will, is there anything that you would want to see done differently by the city this time around that you're willing to say out loud?
Well, 100%. You know, this started a Chamber of Commerce trip to Arizona a few years ago with Nancy. You know, a conversation of, I think it was 2022, is that, you know, let's start planning now. You know, in 2016, we didn't really focus on land in San Jose. So when the people knew the Super Bowl, if they land in SFO, they're most likely going to stay where? Somewhere on the peninsula, right? So the number one focus is, how do we get people, A, to land in San Jose? Because if they land in San Jose, now we got to have them stay in San Jose. When they stay in San Jose, how could they play in San Jose? So some of the things we learned is that by having the media day here first, and the game at the end of the week, we'll do a free shuttle to the city. If they want to go to the Fan Fest in San Francisco, if you have one of our hotel key cards, we'll have a shuttle, whether it's the train with Caltrain or whether we charter buses, right? We'll do a transportation loop so they can go to the city, but they're going to come back to the better city, right? The other thing is, how do we activate downtown core so that the last Super Bowl we had public safety officers pretty much guarding public safety officers because there are no activations downtown. So that's one lesson learned there is, how do we create events around the event? And what I mean by that, well, with the Super Bowl, how do we create art galleries celebrating the work of the art of the Super Bowl over 60 years? How do we work with the Downtown Association to do Restaurant Week, the week of the Super Bowl, now that we have patrons coming in? With the Media Day, there's 5,000 credentialed journalists. Well, how do we host a Media Day party the next day? So they stay here and we could do a progressive dinner at different locations, whether San Pedro Square, San Pedro Social, right, Soma. So it's lessons learned of how do we better keep the folks here after they go to the official events.
Okay. And what do you think our chances are of getting the Media Day here?
Jonathan Becker said earlier today said I could use the word optimistic. He usually doesn't use the word optimistic. So we're encouraged.
And that is a significant event because it's not only the first day of the Super Bowl week, the entire world is watching this broadcast on ESPN. And there's 5,000 credentialed journalists just last year. And so to see it's at San Jose, at the SAP Center, that is clear for us that we get the first day of visibility the week of the Super Bowl.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you so much for the work, and this is going to come before the full council, and I have no doubt that there's going to be other comments or thoughts around the topic, but I appreciate it.
Thank you for the report and John, your enthusiasm. It's very contagious. It's really exciting, all of these athletic events that will hopefully we'll be able to bring in the economic impact, but more importantly than that, put San Jose at the center of the stage and show how much fun you can have here as a visitor to San Jose. So I really like the theme, fly, stay, and play. I actually prefer fly, play, and stay, because playing is more important, but you get them here to play, they're going to stay here. I think that's really a wonderful thing. But I noticed in the memo that wayfinding was not highlighted, although Carrie, you did highlight it in your presentation. And in your presentation, it mentioned that wayfinding, you'll be coming back in Q4 of 2025. That seems kind of late for me to be thinking about where or any policy changes we need for wayfinding, whether it's digital or any other types of wayfinding. I've been talking about wayfinding for a couple of years, and not necessarily in relation to 2026, but now more importantly in relation to 2026. We need to be able to make it easy for folks who are visiting to get around, whether it's a static sign or whether it's digital. So I'm really concerned about Q4 2025 when we're going to see policy coming forward. I'd really think it needs to come forward earlier than that, to us? Because the council may have some issues that, and things they want to discuss around it.
So Chair Foley, if I could jump in, and this is probably my mistake when I think I was the one that listed Q4. In my mind, that's when we have signs, kiosks up. So not just the policy work being completed, but to have them ready to go for the 2026 events. I'll remind the committee that back in May of this year, we did provide a status report on wayfinding. At that time, we did indicate we would definitely have static signage ready to go for downtown for 2026. There were some hurdles around digital kiosks, but I have asked the team to actually do a little bit more homework to see how we could accelerate that. I've actually gotten some responses just today back from Nathan, who is in the audience. So I want the committee to know that the team is working on what we might be able to do in terms of digital kiosk and have perhaps a pilot of some sort and really connect it to the special event zone specifically. But this is in our work plan, and I think that we have also committed to come back to CED in February of next year to provide an update on our work on wayfinding.
Great. I'm really happy to hear that. So what you're saying is that we should expect to see signs up in Q4 2025.
That's correct.
That's
Before
exciting.
Super
You might
Bowl
want to
in
include that
February
in your
25.
report in November 19th. Yeah.
We'll make that
Just
clarification.
to clarify it a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you. What other questions did I have? I guess that's it. I am really excited for this opportunity. I'm an arts person. I support a lot of performing arts, but sports and arts go together. They're a variety. Not everybody is an artist. Not everybody is an athlete, but we can appreciate both. I love the 49ers, and I hope they're going to be here in 2026. Okay, Raiders, whatever. But not to throw it out or anything, but it's just an exciting opportunity to have so much vibrancy, so much of an excuse for us to come downtown and play all over the city of San Jose. So thank you for that presentation. Let's vote. Great. No surprise that motion carried, and we'll see you all on November 19th. Final report is on local and small business contracting participation annual report. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Council and Committee. I am Albi Udom, Deputy Director of Finance, overseeing purchasing and risk management. We are here today to present on the city's local and small business contracting activities in the fiscal year 23-24. I have with me my colleague Fletcher Barnes, who will lead our presentation, and I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Albi, and good afternoon. Okay, so to start, I want to give a broad overview of the city's procurement model. So there's a few different ways that goods and services are procured throughout the city of San Jose. To start, there's city departments, which independently manage consulting contracts within their department and those procurements for those contracts. There's also the Public Works Department, which manages the public works contracts, for example, construction. A key note with this year's report is that the public works metrics are no longer a part of this report. Those are shared separately in the annual citywide capital improvement program status report. And then last but not least, finance purchasing, which is us. Our group oversees the general services, commodities, as well as IT procurements. And that's what we'll be covering here today. All right, so to preface this, I wanted to give a broad overview on what the local and small business preference is and how that applies to our procurements. So the local business preference for a vendor to qualify, they must have a current San Jose business tax certificate and have an office in Santa Clara County with at least one employee. To qualify as a small business, they must first qualify as a local business and also have a total number of employees in their entity of 35 or less, regardless of where those employees are located. So that preference provides up to a 5% dollar value credit for low bid price determinative solicitations, or up to a 10% point value for evaluative solicitations. So in the case of an RFP, where points are assigned for different metrics, such as experience, project approach, that's where that 10% points would be applied. So last fiscal year's results for our counts, we had $366.1 million awarded via contracts and purchase orders. Of those awards, 24% of the total dollars awarded, so nearly a quarter, were given to local businesses based on that preference qualification. And then on top of that, local and small businesses comprised roughly $39.8 million, which was 11% of those total dollars awarded. And then the count below that, which is 1,602 total awards in that fiscal year, that represents the total number of individual contracts and purchase orders from that fiscal year period. So local businesses comprise 12% of that total award, so 186 contracts and purchase orders, local and small 6% and 102. All right, so in comparison to the past 3 fiscal years, you can see on the right there, that's our count for this year. I'd really like to highlight the change in small business awards. There is some variation just year to year based on the types of procurements we do. A lot of the contracts are awarded on a multi-year basis, and those are typically captured in that initial award. So depending on the types of procurements we do, in fiscal year 23-24, there were a lot of procurements for IT technology hardware that ended up going to local and small vendors. So that's a big portion of that $39.8 million amount you see there on that table. And then I'll go ahead and hop. Next slide. All right, and then this is just a breakout of the award quantity and percentage. I'd like to highlight as well that while it's divided by contract vehicle, I think the number that really reflects it ideally is that value, because the value of contract shifts a lot, right, depending on the scope of what's being procured, type of procurement, contract vehicle, but to kind of give a picture of the overall number of awards for those vendors. All right. And one item with those counts as well, I'd like to highlight that we do a number of different procurements. There are often cases where a vendor may be a local or a small business, but because of say a grant requirement, sometimes we have federal funding sources that would exclude like a certain a preference, that they may just not qualify for that preference. So those numbers that are reflected there, I'd say, are rather conservative in terms of counts, but it's specifically for those vendors that are qualifying for that city preference. And so how do we interact with local and small businesses? What touch points do we have? We have a number of available public resources on the city's public-facing internet page. This includes a recently updated Doing Business with the City guide that has information on like general insurance requirements, the local small business preference, where they can get information on bids that are posted and how to register as a vendor. So that's publicly available for anyone who has access to that website. And then we also have a live phone line as well that's staffed throughout the day that vendors can call into if they have questions or inquiries, and we're happy to help with those. We also have done a number of outreach events as well. So recently, earlier this year, we worked with Santa Clara County to do a Contract Connect outreach event with a number of other local municipalities, where we actually tabled and shared information about working with the city, contract opportunities, along with the Department of Public Works as well. That was a great experience, being able to kind of hear questions directly from vendors, you know, and key items of how they've interacted with the city or their interest in what types of procurements we offer. We also do the work with Public Works on the Meet the Primes event as another outreach item to share this information with local vendors. And then we also have our e-procurement portal, which is Bid and Go. So that's a public portal. Our solicitations are posted in there for public viewing and response. Our goal with that process is to be as transparent and open as possible. So there's a Q&A portal where all vendors can post questions. We post all those answers publicly. There's also live support for that system through our vendor, as well as our contact phone number. And each bid has an individual purchasing staff member as a point of contact as well. So really trying to ensure vendors have ample time and resources to respond to those solicitations. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
We have no public comment.
Okay, then turning to council, Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. A few questions. Thank you so much for this presentation, something that's very important to me as a small business advocate, especially for minority and women and mom and pop owned businesses. So just a few questions. In regards to the efforts to increase small local participation in purchasing contracts, how does the city measure the success of our outreach in terms of small businesses or local businesses securing these contracts?
Thank you for the question. I'd say one key metric is we try to, on the yearly basis, track the participation of these vendors and seeing in terms of year to year how many local and small businesses we are having respond to our bids. We also try to account for the different types of solicitations we offer. So a lot of the ones that are, say, like a local service, where we would need someone on site to perform, say, painting or something similar. Those often involve local businesses just because of the nature of the engagement. But as far as longer term and kind of that evaluation, is there anything you'd like to add?
At this time, we don't really have any way of measuring it on a longer term, but on year to year, we can see if small businesses and local businesses are increasing their participation.
Great, thank you. Another one, obviously, a lot of us represent very diverse corridors with diverse small business owners who may or may not speak English. So what are the activities from the city side to essentially recruit or enable small businesses who are maybe not English speakers to procure some of these opportunities?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I would give a note in some of the outreach we've done where possible. We've tried to have things that are offered in multiple languages. I'd say a little over a year ago, we actually worked with OED on doing a informational kind of webinar for local small business and contracting with the city. I know that was live translated into multiple languages at the time, and I believe posted on, I want to say, the YouTube channel for for the Office of Economic Development. On the other hand, we do have some challenges with regards to like the contracting and kind of how we set that up. Those at this time are only in English, just based on kind of the nature of that contracting process. But I know there's things we've looked at in terms of that language, like the city's language access policy that was recently updated, and trying to find a way to bridge, have a wide reach with the types of availability of resources we have. But we can do outreach and kind of provide that information in different languages, but there's kind of that challenge with that contracting component where it becomes a little bit more challenging.
Is there any plans regarding, that contracting procurement to, I guess, bring it into, 21st century to offer different languages?
I'll let Albie answer
Thank you, Councilmember, for that question. First of all, let me just add to what Fletcher said earlier. I believe we do have staff that are multilingual that will step in once in a while if needed. With regards to the plans for the future, to make it more widely available, that is something that we can definitely take back to Finance Department management and see what we can do about it.
And finally, what efforts are being made to include community-based organizations in these outreaches? Like, are you guys working with the Hispanic Chamber or the Black Chamber, the Filipino Chamber? Are you guys looking for, groups with the Si Se Puede Collective that I know do different vendor initiatives? Are you guys doing that currently? Or are you planning to do that in the future?
Thank you again for that question. Yes, that's certainly something that we want to do. We want to engage more with the CBOs and the local chambers to try and drum up some, make sure that we can get some small local businesses to actually become aware of contracting opportunities so they can get involved in it. We actually have the Finance Department, the Purchasing Union Finance Department, spearheaded the formation of a county-wide or Bay Area-wide procurement alliance. And one of the subgroups coming out of that is a subgroup to deal with small local businesses, how to make sure we engage with them, how to make it easier for them to actually find out about opportunities and how to bid on contracts. So we're working on that.
No, thank you. Thank you both for the presentation. This is, item that I think is very important to me, but very important to the entire council and really to the community. It's an avenue in which we can keep our money local and invest in our neighborhoods, which in turn invests in our local families. So we'd love to see maybe in the next presentation in the future a timeline of maybe some of these initiatives that you may have, or I guess just something a little bit more concrete of what you're going to do to start measuring the metrics is, because we just want to make sure that we're getting our bang for the buck. And we know that some of these organizations are large corporations that just set up like a rent a small space and have one employee and say, oh, we're a local business, right? And so I would love the opportunity to measure like how is this initiative actively impacting our local economy in a concrete way, and so just would appreciate that greatly in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Kamei.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the presentation. I want to follow up a little bit on my colleague, Councilmember Ortiz's question regarding multilingual capabilities, and I think it's great to have things translated and all of that, but I guess I'm not understanding the contract. You mentioned you have contracting challenges. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I guess I'm not understanding what's the hiccup.
Yeah, thank you for the question, for sure. So when we post a solicitation for public consumption or a bid, there is a contract vehicle that we'd use. So typically a contract or a purchase order that would result from that solicitation once we award that to a vendor or multiple vendors. The exemplar language for that contract or for the purchase order is drafted in English at this point. So when we work and we negotiate that contract with the vendor, sometimes in coordination with the city attorney's office, that's the language that has been used historically for that process. So that's kind of where the challenge comes from a little, is that's really the format of our contracting process and our contracting language in that case.
I guess, in terms of, as someone who's bilingual, I think that as we're sort of moving forward to be more inclusive and, giving people the right information, I think that there might be some tools out there that are very easily used for translation that I think they're just getting better, right? And I'm not saying that, it's something that's easy, because when you're doing these legal documents, obviously you want to have the right words. But I think that especially in the most dominant languages of Spanish and Vietnamese, at minimum, at minimum. At some point, I think that it'd be very interesting to be able to have some kind of ways in which we do that, you know. I happen to use translation systems that are readily available, right? And of course, you know, I make my own corrections and all of that, but at the same time, I think that if we reduce the barriers to entry, I think that you would be much more inclusive of people, you know, just sort of generally, right? So I think that in the future, you may want to think about, you know, what are some of the things that could be possible, right? I know that we don't have that capability now, but that doesn't mean that the future cannot be different. So that if we have challenges, challenges are made to be met. And I have a lot of faith in, you know, the city to be able to do what they can to facilitate being inclusive. So I want to thank you for, you know, participating with the Meet the Primes. That's very successful, as well as Contract Connect with Santa Clara County. So those are the things I think that will help us. But I also think that looking towards the future on reducing the barriers, I think would be very helpful. I was also interested in understanding the industry areas that we probably would like to encourage to participate. You mentioned that the rise in some of the contractors was because of, you know, IT capability. I'm wondering, are there other industries that we can target?
Yeah, definitely. So we find that with the local small businesses, often the services especially, where we need like a local presence, right, to meet, say, service levels or response times, they're often well suited to respond to those types of bids and solicitations. So yeah, there's definitely other commodities and types of bids that we can look at for targeting those groups. Some that come to mind are we have a number of solicitations for various like maintenance and operations services to help support city services, where oftentimes there are local and small respondents to those bids. So I think outreach there could also be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's great, and it's good to know. I think that when you bring this information back to us the next time, it'd be interesting to see the industries that most are sort of coming forward, because I thought that was a pretty big jump in terms of, you know, IT services, right? But if we know that, hey, we have opportunities for maintenance and operations, it might be something that people who perhaps didn't even think of participating would want to participate. So I think that might be something to take a look at. But thank you so much. And did he move the item?
No.
Okay, I will move the item to accept the annual report on contracting with local and small businesses.
Thank you. Councilmember, Vice Chair Jimenez.
Thank you, Chair Foley. Appreciate it. Just a few questions. I'm trying to make sure I understand sort of the numbers. So on slide 3, when you went through the financing, purchasing, procurement, and you broke it down, local small businesses, and then the total amount awarded. So if there was $366 million spent, or procurement dollars, let's just say, and then that addition of the 8739, I think, is like 126 million or so. Is it, just in thinking about this, make sure I'm understanding it correctly, everything outside of that was to businesses outside of San Jose? No, I suspect not, but.
Not necessarily. So just businesses that did not qualify for the preference. So it could be that they didn't submit for the preference, but they were a San Jose business. It could be that various reasons, or it could be that we didn't offer the preference because, say, it was a grant-funded procurement. There's certain like federal grants that'll require us not to have include that preference. So there's some variation there. But so the so there's other San Jose businesses in that metric that aren't counted in that local small business count.
And do you all have any statistics related to just very plainly San Jose businesses, how much money they got, and everyone else?
Not readily available, but we can gather that information.
Yeah, I don't know if you. I feel like he's ready to say something. Push the button.
Councilmember Jimenez, I was just going to point out that it's not just San Jose. The local business is Santa Clara County.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm asking is my personal opinion, and I don't think this is embedded in policy anywhere, but to the extent the city of San Jose is spending any money on anything, that we should do everything possible to make sure that money stays here. And that money's flowing to businesses that are paying taxes that then benefit the city of San Jose. That's just my general thinking of it, so I appreciate it that's the region, it's Santa Clara County, but I think it'd be helpful and beneficial to see how much money, how much city money, taxpayer money is flowing outside of the city, and figure out if it's, let's just say, 50% of the total, 30% of the total, figure out like what is it that we want as like a stated policy of the city, right? For example, our investment policy says we want liquidity, we want protection. I forget the different things it states, but like these guiding principles as it relates to where the city money is spent is where I'm coming from, I think. But there's no like thresholds that we have embedded within policy somewhere that says the active goal is to make sure that 60% of the procurement dollars stay within San Jose or go to San Jose businesses. There's nothing like that.
At this time, Councilmember, there's nothing like that.
Okay. And doing something like that would just be a matter of someone up here submitting something or coming up with a policy idea and wanting to direct us in that way? Is that?
I suspect that it will involve that, but we'd have to check with CEO and CMO as well, because it might impact a change to Muni Code.
Please, City Attorney's Office.
Johnny Pan from City Attorney's Office. Yeah, this issue's come up numerous times in the last 20, 30 years. There's definitely legal cases and issues when you want to direct the money to within San Jose or a preference for certain groups. We've looked into this issue a few times. There's a San Francisco case. We've kind of pushed the issue to the outer limits in terms of where we think we can go, but we can definitely look into the issue again if it were directed by council.
Would it be a matter of like embedded within the scoring system for some of these RFPs, if you will? Or?
Yeah, so we have the 5% for small business and 5% for local business, which is kind of outer limits of the case law at this point, but we can definitely look into the issue further.
So the case law even cites a particular percentage you can allocate a particular business?
It upheld a San Francisco scoring system years ago. So it did a cite to a specific percentage, no, but it upheld a scoring system in San Francisco that said it was legal. In terms of, can we go further than that? Maybe, but there's a case on point in terms of, upholding the percentage.
Yeah, I think it'd be, I'm obviously gone at the end of the year, but I think it'd be wise to stretch this as far as possible to make sure that the local businesses are benefiting. And just, I was doing like behind the napkin numbers, if you will. And so just based on the slide that's on the screen, so 126 million, that's the total of local businesses and small businesses that submitted for it, right?
I'd like to clarify. So it's actually a subset. So in order to qualify as a small business, they have to be a local. So that 39.8 million is a subset of that 87.9.
Okay, so the number's smaller then.
It's actually a little smaller.
Okay,
yes.
well, my numbers were already, let's just say, it's a small percentage of the broader 366 million. It would probably, I had down 34% because I was trying to understand that, but it's probably much lower. It's probably like, I don't know, if I had to guess, maybe about 13% of the money spent actually goes to local and small. I'm making up the percentage. I didn't run those numbers that way. But it's a small percentage, and so I think it's worthwhile to think about how we can stretch the outer limits of the legal sort of framework to get more money in. The other question I had is, and just to wrap my head around this, is that, say, for example, just say the housing department wants to buy a new printer, right? They can go online, go to Amazon, buy the printer, or they can go to the local Staples and buy the printer. However that's done, is that, or actually, let me back up. If they go to the local Staples to buy the printer in San Jose, does that fall under the local business, or is that totally different? Because I feel like that's procurement, but it's like the P-card related stuff. And
yeah, so that's a great question. So the P-card actually doesn't have a preference component in it. We can pull data and kind of look at other things there, but that wouldn't that wouldn't be flagged in these counts.
Okay.
And the reason these are counted is when there is a procurement done, so for, with public notice, and they can apply for that preference. That's what's represented here.
So everything that falls under the sort of, I'll just say everyday usage of departments, printers, paper, pens, whatever it may be, they can go, again, just making this up, go to Amazon or go to the local, stationery store or anything like that, right?
It depends. So,
this
sorry.
is the confusing part. No, I know.
Sorry. So there's a little bit of, so generally if we are aware, or if there's an ongoing city need for certain types of things, we'll often try to do like a citywide bulk kind of procurement. And in that case, that would be publicly noticed often and then posted to Bid and Go, and vendors could respond as a supplier. And then there's like an open contract or purchase order to where departments would be able to utilize that to buy, say, goods or printers or pens or those kinds of things. So that case, it could be that a local vendor, say in some of the IT examples where we have a local provider for IT hardware, and there's citywide like orders for those that are utilized by IT to procure those different goods.
And is there any type of policy that exists within the city that says that if I'm going to use my P card to make everyday purchases for the office, right, for the hundreds and thousands of things we utilize during the course of a year for a city, any policy that says you need to look internally in the city before you go out and purchase it on Amazon, if you will?
Yes. So what I'd note is the P-card policy notes that the first course of action should be utilizing a citywide open or department purchase order prior to utilizing a P-card for the purchase. So, and we have a list of like citywide orders that are available. Departments also have their own list of orders. So those would typically be done through that procurement process where a local or small business preference could apply. So that should be done first before going that P-card purchase route.
All right, and I'm asking in the same spirit of the other comment, is making sure that P-card usage is, to the extent legally possible, maintained within the city of San Jose. Going to East San Jose, chair store to buy chairs for the city, or down the street for a printer, and so on and on. So, okay. The very last questions I had, and I got the sigh here, so I'm going to be quick. And so that is, because I'm new to the committee, and she's like, good Lord, who do they put here? And so the question I have is it common, or is it possible to have different procurement policies within a specific department? So say the planning department has 3 different procurement policies and approaches to different things, or is it typically seamless and the same?
So it's the same for, I can speak to things that come through our group, so finance purchasing. So for general services, commodities, and IT procurements, those are the same across all departments. So they all adhere to the same like P-card policy, we adhere to that section 412 of the Muni Code with regards to how we carry out those procurements. And those all are basically come through our group, and the contracting and solicitation process is consistent. With regards to, say, sorry if I'm...
She's about to mute my mic.
Oh, okay.
I'll thank you ahead of time, but finish your statement. I'm going to jump off.
Okay. But with regards to the, say, the consulting services which are decentralized, there are general templates and processes that should be followed, but there may be some variation there just because of the nature of a decentralized procurement.
Thank you, Council Member. Councilmember Batra.
Okay, my questions are not going to be anything like what the council member asked, but I do want to go in there. As you know, our goal is to increase the number of employees in the city of San Jose who reside here. That having local businesses, thriving local businesses, would be the vehicle which will allow us to get that while we are trying to attract other businesses. So in having local businesses which are thriving, there's 2 components to it. One, getting them set up here easily, and then giving them the revenue opportunities, then finding them the employees who can really work for them. So that effort is going on in one direction. But the angle which is you give them the revenue, and one of the things which I know is pretty complicated is the RFP process. all these contracts you talked about, or the purchases you talked, did they have to go through the same complex RFP process like every other large project goes through?
Thank you for the question. So it varies a bit depending on the value or the estimated value of the purchase. I would say a majority of those purchases in that $366 million amount are done through what we call a request for bids or a request for quotes, which is typically done based on price. So it's not, there aren't quite as many components as a full RFP. The RFP threshold would be procurements with an estimated value over $250,000 that are evaluative, so typically complex services, IT solutions, those go through that route. So a lot of those are a little bit more straightforward in the bid process, in that it's a price based with minimum qualifications and other information that's provided.
So my suggestion would be is, as you meet with these local businesses, which ask them if they need any guidance on the RFP process, because they don't have as many employees to draw upon to fill up the RFP processes and things. So if there's any way to simplify the things for them, or guide them through that, so that the RFP process does not become a discouragement for them to be able to bid for these projects or be able to win for these purchases. And I think my hope is that with that, more of them will be able to get more of that money, which council member or our vice chairman wanted, and I think those will become a lot easier to get that. We'll continue to work on the other side to get the businesses set up here, but you help us out with this RFP process so that they're not become a hindrance in getting this thing done. Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. So it's clear that we, as a council, are very committed to encouraging small businesses and particularly enabling small businesses within the city of San Jose to do more business with the city, and anything we can do to encourage that or expand that group is useful and helpful, not just to small businesses that are maybe new to the area, but small businesses for them to stay and thrive in the city of San Jose. I think this report mostly is about the RFP process and those who are going through the bidding and quoting, as you said. But there are so many other ways that we might be able to bring in or utilize small businesses, such as the local print shop, who we can order our business cards through the local print shop, but they have to get approved by the city so that we can use our P card readily and go through that process. So whatever we can do to simplify that for the small business, because as Councilmember Batra said, they don't have large legal teams, they don't really know how to do all of this work, but they really want to, they may be able to provide us with the best service available. We order, for example, t-shirts all the time, and we may be able to find a better vendor who's local who will give us a deal because they are local, and but they may not be on your list, so we have to get them on your list to do so. So I'd love to see, when we see this report again, how we can encourage other businesses to, how we can spread the word to other businesses to be part of our purchasing process. With that, I see no other hands. Let's vote. Great, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. Good information. Do we have any, now we've moved into open forum. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
We have no public comment.
Great, then we stand adjourned. Thank you.